Name something that gets passed around.
A joint.
A joint.
Legalized marijuana is always a very difficult question.
The time is long overdue for us to remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
From now on, I smoke weed exclusively with white people.
Well, I'll get higher next time.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man, the Snoopy Poop Dog.
There's definitely cannabis in there, and it makes sure that I can sleep now.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Don't piss off your old dealer.
Marijuana is not the kind of thing that ought to be legalized.
I know you're not supposed to admit that you smoke pot, but I don't drink alcohol.
Let's get out of here. I had some really good weed back at the hotel.
I used to smoke marijuana.
I don't care if an adult wants to smoke marijuana. They shouldn't go to prison for it either.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for Toker Talk Radio, where we let down what's left of my hair, unbutton the tie, loosen a little bit here, and just chill with our guest in studio, Matt from Stuff Stoners Like.
What's going on, everybody? Good to be here.
Today we like weed.
Weed and dabs and some glass.
And some weed and some dabs and some glass. It's all good. We've had some good dabs here at Delta 9, and it's been fun getting to meet Matt. And who was it that was earlier today?
Sammy from High Intentions. She's been helping out on the Hot Box. It's hard to find co-hosts. I see
understand.
why you do it by yourself. I've gone through more than I'd care to admit. So
yeah.
She's local here in Portland. I'm in Eugene, and through the magic of Skype and the internet, we can do a show.
Yeah, the technology now is so cheap and easy compared to when we started. Oh, my God.
Yeah, just need a room and, fiddle with some cables and such.
That's right. We got ourselves a room. You got to get one of them little USB mic boxes, and then everything's good to go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we got some sales figures to tell you about out of the state of Colorado. The cannabis reports that Colorado cannabis sales topped $126 million for the month of February. That's fantastic. This is according to the report, it's the 9th consecutive month in which sales have topped $100 million. It was $126.1 million in sales, $86.4 million was rec, $39.6 million was medical. The third highest monthly sales total in the recreational marijuana era, 15% higher than the previous month, up 36% from the previous year. And the tax revenue from that was $17.5 million for the state of Colorado.
Did Idaho hear?
Yeah. Hello, Idaho.
Did anyone let them know?
Are you listening? We raised a lot of money. And I shy away a little from the money arguments because I always say, if this is tax revenue based on, $200 ounces still.
Yeah, right?
So,
Definitely.
and this is interesting, too, because Colorado's got this bill, and the Colorado Senate just approved it, and it's likely to get signed here, which is, I call it the oh shit Jeff Sessions bill. And the oh shit Jeff Sessions bill is if the Trump administration, the federal government starts cracking down on recreational marijuana, because they can't crack down on medical because of the Rohrabacher, right? That amendment. And also, Spicer and Sessions have said, well, medical's different. Medical's, it's a whole different thing with medical. They've made pains to delineate the two, right? So the oh shit Jeff Sessions bill says if they start prosecuting rec, all the rec people, all the guys with rec licenses, dispensaries, growers, processors, can convert their licenses over to medical.
Even Washington?
This is California.
Okay.
This is Colorado.
Right.
This is a Colorado bill. There's similar ideas in Washington and California too, but this is one in Colorado specifically. If there's a crackdown, boom, all these rec guys can suddenly be medical. Now the disadvantage of that, it costs Colorado about $100 million because they only tax medical at like 3%. They tax rec at 18%. But my question for you is, doesn't this just make their point about rec and medical being a game, right? Because all of a sudden now all the rec guys are medical.
And I feel like they're almost doing it to a point because that's how a lot of states initially got able to use cannabis was through medical, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's just a farce. It's like, it's preventative. Look, we're fine, Yeah. It's that, and then they settle because it's like, well, it's better than nothing.
I always find the downside, and I'm finding the downside of this in the West is that we started with these very expansive medical programs because it was the sickest of the sick, and these are the people that need the 12 to 24 plants they're cultivating for oil. They desperately need that. So we got used to that. Like, that's what medical is. And then rec comes along, and they go, well, my God, we can't have rec people growing 24 plants. That's crazy. Let's put them down to 4. And then they start to pull back on the medical side. They want it to be more like the rec because, well, if there's a big disparity, rec people want to jump over to that medical side where they can play a little more.
I would be curious what the state will end up charging for those license changes, because if that's the case, then you have a business model that propagates forever. Because you'd be like, oh, this year it's medical, and wait, this year what year is it? It's an odd number. It's rec.
Switch back.
Oh,
everybody back on the other side.
Pay up. Daddy needs a new Benz.
And we talked about that racket in Arkansas and these other states. They're just making money hand over fist on the non-refundable fees for applying.
Paper's expensive, I understand. I mean, it doesn't grow on trees, Russ.
It grows in hemp fields, though.
Don't tell them that.
That's right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I got some updates. We told you about the decriminalization in Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee, right? And how the state lawmakers didn't like that so much. We got an update on that coming back right around the break. Stick around.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Dan thought it would help him stay up and study. He's been up for 2 days.
Matt's best friend told him it would help him pick up girls. He's no longer with us, and Matt thinks he's the lucky one.
Emily thought meth would get rid of her problems. Now she's addicted on top of those problems.
Don't burn your life away. Meth, it can kill you, or worse.
This has been the Russ Belville Show's anti-drug public service announcement of the day, exclusively on RadicalRuss.com. Get your tickets now for the Oregon Marijuana Business Conference, happening one day only in Eugene, Oregon on Friday, April 28th. You'll learn all about the latest OLCC regulations for adult use cannabis, including testing requirements, tech and branding, taxes and distribution, and the latest developments in medical marijuana regulations. OMBC features networking with Oregon's leading experts in marijuana, including State Senator Floyd Przansky. You'll also get to hear from author, actor, and punk rock icon Henry Rollins delivering the keynote address. Early bird pricing is available for conference-only and VIP passes, which get you access to the VIP networking events featuring Henry Rollins and other speakers. It's the 2017 Oregon Marijuana Business Conference. Tickets available now at OregonMBC.com. That's OregonMBC.com before April 14th to get your early bird pricing. OregonMBC.com.
You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
Right now, marijuana is listed by the federal government as a Schedule I drug. That is absurd.
You can find Radical Russ online everywhere.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com. DeltaNine.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 10 after the hour here at Delta 9 House and Studios. Hanging out with Matt Lee from Stuff Stoners Like and the Hot Box Podcast. Check them out at stuffstonerslike.com and hotbox.earth. Was it hotbox.earth?
Hotbox.earth.
Hotbox.earth. Nice and short. Very, very good. So have you ever been to Idaho?
I have. I actually went and dated a girl when I was younger who lived in Coeur d'Alene. Her father was a PI, which I didn't know at the time. And, I just kind of lived at her apartment while she did the school thing. And yeah,
Coeur d'Alene is so different from the Idaho I live in Boise.
Right, yeah,
it's
definitely.
Just, Coeur d'Alene is just one of the most gorgeous places, I got to say. Yeah. Idaho's, you go about an hour or two north of Boise, and Idaho just gets beautiful as hell.
Yeah. Boise's like eastern Montana, like Great Falls area. It's all just like plains and then deserts, and it's,
a lot of sagebrush.
But up in northwest Montana, we always drive to Libby and then through like Bonners and Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint area. A lot of good snowmobiling out there.
That area up there, that little panhandle of Idaho, is the only part of the Pacific time zone where marijuana is not legal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the entire Pacific time zone is legal now, except that little sliver of Idaho.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, the only mountain time zone. Well, no, Colorado's a mountain time zone, but there's a little sliver of mountain time zone around Ontario, Oregon, because it's kind of geographically attached to Boise, so it stays on the same time zone as Boise does. So that's the Treasure Valley, which, by the way, is the home of Jorge Cervantes, Ontario, Oregon. Yeah, so I just over the past year learned that me and Jorge grew up like in the same valley.
Yeah, had like no idea at the time, and then
and I'm like picking up High Times magazines. He's still got the disguises on, right? I'm like,
one day I'm gonna write for that magazine.
That dude's so cool, man. That dude's so cool, and he just lives 30 miles away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ontario was something because in Idaho, obviously the marijuana laws suck, real bad in Idaho, and it even goes for paraphernalia. Like. There's like 3 places in America no paraphernalia people will ship to, and it's Pennsylvania, Idaho, and Indiana. You do not. In fact, Tommy Chong got busted for shipping the bongs to Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah,
Western
in that
District.
Operation. I forget the name of it now.
It was AKA Tommy Chong DVDs that he was involved in too, in the Chong bongs. But anyway, so we couldn't get paraphernalia in the Boise area, surprisingly. So we'd always drive the hour drive to Ontario, which is over the border.
Nice.
And they used to have this shop called the Red Eye Hut. So the Red Eye Hut, we all get it. And the guy that ran the place was named Big Al, and he not ironically named. The guy was huge. He was like, damn, Big Al. And he was one of them guys that had the late night commercial that would be on during
the flappy inflatable arm waving.
Kids back in the day, we used to only have like 3 channels, and like late at night they'd go off the air. Like they'd end. Like
you'd wake up in the morning to the national anthem.
Yeah. So Operation Pipe Dream, the chat room says.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in the day on these old like local channels, they'd show late night movies like the Monster Mash movie or whatever the hell they'd call it, right? And they'd have the worst local commercials at that time. The Big Al Red Eye Hut commercial was always on late at night. And this was before I was into weed, so I didn't really know what the hell was going on. Whenever I'd see that. But
who is this guy and what is he selling?
What do you mean Red Eye
curious
Hut?
now.
I don't get it. And everything's really vague about what they're selling on the ad. They can't really actually say it. I loved the first time in a legal state I was able to say bong in a head shop.
Yeah, that's weird, right? People get scared of that. Like you don't know if you're going to get ushered out the door by the guy, and you're psyching yourself up beforehand. Like, don't say bong, don't say bong. It's a water pipe for tobacco, and you go in, you're like, oh, that's an awesome bong. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Try again tomorrow. And people are gun shy about that. We get a lot of questions on the site for that kind of stuff, and it's generally that generation that is only now getting into it because of the rules being okay. We're all of a sudden okay to do this.
Is there any more bullshit statement than for tobacco use only? No. Like, it's right up there with like the checks in the mail.
Can I tell you, I've been working with a lot of glass blowers in Eugene. I've been doing some trading, and this has never happened except just this one time. And I was waiting for a package, and it never showed up, just a piece of glass. And I finally checked the tracking, and it says seized by the agency. I have a screenshot of it, and I'm like, huh. I probably shouldn't have just done that from my house. Whatever. So I send the kid a message. I'm like, hey, has this ever happened before? And he's like, I didn't think that would happen, but just in case it does, we're supposed to include instructions on how to use your brand new handmade Hetty coffee maker. And he actually wrote out this whole set of instructions. And long story short, like a week later, I'm out traveling and my girlfriend texts me and she's like, I just had to sign for a package. They said it was illegal, but they delivered it anyway. I was like, cool. Did you sign for it? She's like, well, yeah. Like that, a girl. Thank you.
There you go.
And it showed up. But yeah, it's a weird thing you have to do for like no reason,
for tobacco use only. It's like I have read the terms and conditions. Honest.
Yeah, I promise I'm not gonna smoke anything but this thing that'll kill me eventually out of it.
So I'm giving everyone in the chat room a look at the studio because I don't think they've really gotten the.
Oh, I should take my hood off so I'm not like so
right there. So Matt is sitting beneath the calendar of travel and the lanyards, the Lanyard Hall of Fame there. So all my lanyards from all the events I've done.
That's a lot of work right there. And I don't know if like the people that just listen realize how much work each one of these is. As someone that has like a fraction of this amount, I can tell you that I'm glad I'm retired. Because wow, dude. Is that Google? You went to Google?
I was, cool,
I
was at Google. I was at the Netroots Nation back in 2010. Nice. Speaking on marijuana issues. And the one I'm most proud of up there is I was an accredited blogger at the 2008 Democratic National Convention, where they picked Barack Obama in Denver. So that's a good one that's up there. But, a lot of Seattle Hemp Fest ones, a lot of Portland Hemp Stock ones. And now it's interesting, too, looking through them, how they've gone from being activist events to being business events, expos.
Isn't that crazy? Right? I covering from the tech sector and then starting to cover these cannabis industry conferences. They were starting to more and more look like a CES or another like big tech conference with booth babes and everything. It was like that exact genre of conference, but for cannabis.
No doubt about it. Hey, I mentioned that we had an update on the Tennessee situation, and I gotta say before I get to this that I don't want to hear another damn Tennessee Republican whining about states' rights and federal overreach and how the people at the local level should be able to control their destiny, because the governor of Tennessee just signed the bill to repeal decriminalization in Nashville and Memphis. So the cities of Nashville and Memphis, they passed these decrim ordinances that said, if you're caught in the city limits less than, I think it was like 10 grams, 15 grams, it wasn't even a lot, right? But you could get, and it wasn't even a guarantee, right? Oh, it's less than a half ounce. There we go. Yeah. Half ounce, $50 civil citation or 10 hours of community service. But the police still retained the option to charge under the Class A misdemeanor that's punishable by a year in jail and up to $2,500 fine. And out of 1,082 arrests, there were 1,082 arrests in Nashville, 39 civil tickets. Right. So it's not as if they were even using it much. Right.
Yeah,
like this decrim, they weren't even using it that much. But 39 people getting off of a misdemeanor. My God, that was too much.
The rest just ran into officers having a bad day.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were just dicks, or I don't know.
I'm thinking that perhaps the shade of complexion of the 39 may differ from the other 1,082.
That would be an interesting statistic to analyze.
But he signed this bill that says it repeals any local law that is inconsistent with penalties outlined in the state statute for drug control or narcotic drugs, and prevents local governments from creating any of their own sanctions for drug possession moving forward. So
that's federal, like, kicking states' laws in the nuts, and then the states' laws kicking like the municipalities' laws in the nuts, like, because they say trickle down.
The argument of states' rights guys, the states' rights Republicans' argument is always that the people at the local level govern best, right? They get it down to the local level because it deals with their concerns and their issues. Well, a city has different issues than bumfuck Tennessee does, right?
Yeah,
Nashville and Memphis got issues with cities and crowding and people and crime, and they can't waste their time dealing with weed. So they should be able to set their own local control on this. So don't ever come back to me, Tennessee Republicans, and tell me you're all for local control, because this, obviously proves that you're not. There was I remember Governor Sauron did the same thing in Idaho. He passed a bill or signed a bill that prevents localities from setting their own minimum wage or banning plastic bags.
Well, everybody does that. Yeah, but Daddy says I'm the best at it.
Well, speaking of Idaho. Anyway, a bill that says a city can't pass its own minimum wage, a city can't pass its own ban on plastic bags. That's it. That's your local control Republicans for you. Hey, it's 420. Oh. I'm sure we got something we got to do. It'll come to me in just a moment. We'll be right back.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana is 3 times stronger than it was in the 1980s.
All right. Well, maybe you're high, too. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. Most of us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argosville. Arr. What are you smoking there, boy? This is Dan Michaels from danmichaelsaudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back here for Toker Talk Radio, and we just got the overhead cam back on, so now you can kind of see a little bit of Matt. There he is. Makes the conversation seem a little more natural, doesn't it? All right, so I wanted to talk about the effect of the election of Donald J. Trump, and specifically the appointment of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, the most redneck name I can think of outside of the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, whose name is what was his? Oh crap! Now I forgot his name. Oh man, Jim Bob Cooter. That's right. Literally, the guy's name's Jim Bob Cooter.
That's almost as good as the Otter guy.
It's almost as good.
I can't.
Can't get past that. But you know, I've been going off for a while about how this is not good news that Trump was elected, that Sessions is in power. And while I didn't like the other corporate choice we were given, at least that choice wasn't going to give us this kind of shit. So here's an example, right? Because I've been saying, look, bad things are coming. And people say, well, they haven't done anything yet. They just haven't said anything yet. They haven't been passing laws yet. They haven't really done anything yet. Yeah. Here's the canary in the coal mine, folks. Here's the first indication. Yesterday on the show, I talked about how Guam is trying to pass marijuana legalization. And it's not just, you know, an initiative or some representative or senator that's putting this through. The governor of the territory of Guam put forth this legalization bill. And he's been pushing it for months now and shepherding it through the legislature. And, well, just yesterday, he dropped his support of the legalization bill, citing the threat of federal crackdown. Basically, his attitude was, well, we don't want to anger the Trump administration. We don't want to bring any attention here.
So he kills a perfectly good idea because he doesn't want the mother of all bombs version 2 dropped on Guam. Yeah. Like, I feel your pain, dude, for sure.
Exactly. There you go. So he's already backed off. The governor of Guam has backed off on this. Now I get a story. It's coming to me by way of the Minneapolis Star Tribune, but Kristen Wyatt from Associated Press has written it. And it says Colorado has backed off plans for marijuana clubs.
What?
Colorado lawmakers have backed off plans to regulate marijuana clubs, saying the state could invite a federal crackdown by approving Amsterdam-style clubs. Thursday's vote in the State House was perhaps the starkest display yet of how pot states are unsure how to proceed regulating the drug under President Donald Trump. The Colorado Bring Your Own Club proposal could have been the nation's first statewide pot club regulation, with Alaska pot regulators recently putting on hold plans there to regulate on-site pot consumption at dispensaries. So there you have it, folks. I kept saying they don't have to do much. It's not like, they're not going to raid us. They're not going to they don't have enough DEA agents to shut down California. That's not what they're going to do.
They don't have to.
Just the fact of them saying bad shit has caused now Guam, Colorado, and Alaska to back off of going forward with better regulations. Just the mere, oh my gosh, something bad might happen. That's all it took.
That's crazy too, because Alaska has Cannabis Club, and it's an awesome place.
Yeah, I've been to the 420 potluck events. But the consumption at the dispensaries, having an actual regulated thing.
Right.
The 420 Club is more like a private, hey, we have a private building, and while we're in it, we smoke pot. But it's not licensed. It's not regulated per se. But it is exactly what we're talking about, though. That's what we want.
That's what Oregon wants to do. And it's like they see that these potheads have found yet another business model based around this stupid plant of theirs. And we're just going to shut that shit down because we don't need you guys hanging out at clubs smoking weed together. And do that in your house.
It's so counterintuitive as well. Well, first of all, when we said treat marijuana like alcohol, we meant treat marijuana users like alcohol users, right? Treat us with the same respect.
Bars and such.
Right. And I always try to frame this to people, like if you're talking to them about it, imagine what it would be like if you had to go to a special store that only sold beer.
Mm-hmm.
It only sells beer, and you can only buy a 6-pack. And what types of beers are allowed, subject to whether or not that store particularly buys that brand. And then with your beers, you can't drink them anywhere. You have to take them back home and drink them at home. You can't be at a bar. You can't drink beers at a bar. You can't drink beers at a restaurant. You can only just go home and drink your beers. Who would put up with that? Nobody would put up with that.
People would brew their own. Weird.
But when it's weed, for some reason, this makes sense to some people.
I don't think it makes sense to. I like to think that it doesn't make sense to them, but they've just accepted it's that or nothing. And that sucks, for sure.
Yeah. So we got folks in the chat room running around who's asking, who's Matt?
I'm Matt Lee, hotbox.earth, at the Jam Hole on Instagram.
There you go. He's here. He writes also for Stuff Stoners Like, and so he's checking out the Delta 9 Airbnb.
And any other outlet that needs a writer. Hey.
And that's right. Just like me, man. Will write for food. I have a fridge magnet.
I mean, hit Russ up first, but if he's busy, then hit me up. I don't want to come and take your...
I am pretty busy. But this is typical, though. This, Colorado's backing off of pot lounges and coming up with this, we'll switch everybody to medical. We'll just switch them all to medical, which is just going to exacerbate the problem. I mean, imagine the reaction you'll get from Kevin Sabet should the Trump administration crack down and then suddenly all these rec producers become medical. Just underscores his point.
So many memes. I can't even. So many.
It's just not going to be good. So,
and I mean, look at it from a business perspective. If you spent all this time and money and you got your building up to a certain set of standards as per what they were written down in the good book when you were building it, and you run it, and then all of a sudden it completely changes.
Yeah.
Can you afford to do that? Were you given enough time to recoup even the money you initially spent? Probably not. And that, again, like you said, it just opens it up for those top-tier, big-buck corporations to come in and be like, we'll take everyone's permit. Here's $1 billion. We'll print more.
Yeah, exactly. And that
sucks, man.
It's so frustrating, too, because it's not as if any of the particulars about marijuana as a social thing or a business thing don't have a readily understandable analog.
Mm-hmm.
We've dealt with things people smoke that make noxious smells, cigars and cigarettes. We've got rules for that. We've dealt with substances that impair people's ability to react and alters their mind and mood. prescription drugs, alcohol. We've got rules for it. We figured that out. We've got rules for cultivating crops. We got tons of rules. Agriculture departments, that's all they do.
It's weird. I bet they even spray pesticides on some of that stuff.
Exactly.
Weird.
But when it comes to marijuana becoming legalized, they got to create a new commission and a new. It's like it's all. It's a plant.
It's smoke and mirrors, though, right? I mean, can
yeah.
you think of a logical reason that they would need to do that other than to just be dicks?
Just to be dicks. Exactly.
It's unfortunate because some of us would really like to have this industry be what it actually can be and not hindered by it. Would be like the government going to Verizon and be like, sorry guys, you've gotten a little too big, we're gonna have to knock a few of your towers down. Like they don't you don't hinder business like that.
Well, they did back in the 80s. They broke up the baby bills that way.
Well,
but they were a monopoly at the time.
It's different.
So here's a note from the world of science. Got some science here. Research in the Journal of Pediatrics. It's out this month from who put this together? Dylan Jackson, PhD, and Michael Vaughn, PhD, from University of Texas, San Antonio, and St. Louis University, respectively. And the study here was to examine whether parental incarceration is significantly associated with a number of sleep and eating behaviors among offspring during early childhood. We will translate. If your mom or dad gets locked up, does it kind of affect the kid in a bad way, do you think? Let's get some grant money and see what the answer to this one could be.
I think the only case it would be no is if there was like a toy version of a place like where Richard Pryor and the kid can hang out and play. Like if that was you're going to live with your rich, grandparents, then the kid might be okay. But
here's what they checked out. They were checking out whether or not a kid had a mom or a dad who went to prison, and then they checked out whether that predicted these health behaviors. 7 of them. Here they are. Sleep problems, short sleep duration, salty snack consumption, starch consumption, sweets consumption, soda consumption, and fast food consumption.
That's just saying that if your parents are there, you're going to eat crap. Like, yeah, I do that too.
You'll have sleep problems and you'll eat like crap.
Yeah, I play my PlayStation all night and I eat freaking Rockstars and chips. Like, that's everybody.
Well, we got some grant money. We applied logistic regression techniques to the analyses.
That's important. That means you go back and look at all the studies that have been done, and then you do your study on that, because doing studies is expensive, and that's way cheaper.
And what they found... Both maternal and paternal incarceration significantly increase the odds of a number of risky sleep and eating behaviors during childhood. Both scholars and practitioners may therefore want to consider the possible negative repercussions of parental incarceration for the sleep and eating behaviors of children, and the potential for these high-risk health behaviors to compromise the health and well-being of children as they age. So I have an idea. Let's not lock moms and dads up for weed, and then their kids won't grow up to be sleep-deprived fat bastards.
Well, I was going to ask, is that cannabis focused? Because, I mean, I think it depends on what the parents were locked up for.
Yeah, no, it's not focused on cannabis.
Right.
It's just incarceration in general.
Okay, I would be interested to see what the incarceration was for. And if you separated out even cannabis and the different drugs, because that's going to be different. Like the cannabis one, it could have been that somebody smelled weed, CPS came over, next thing you know, parents are in jail, kid is not going to Richard Pryor's Toyland.
That's right. That's right.
So it definitely depends, and you got to be skeptical when these studies come out, definitely.
I just like that we get to study things that should be kind of like no-brainers.
Yeah.
Like, does putting a kid's parents in prison make their lives worse?
Does prison F up your life?
Can I take a wager on this one? No, are we taking bets?
That's epic.
Oh, we got another question for the chat room. They asked if there's a show tomorrow. No, I am driving to Mordor tomorrow. Me and Samwise Gamgee are taking the ring on a quest.
I mean, you could ask them if they want to hear me, but I think it might be a little soon for that.
A little soon. We don't have everything worked up yet to do that. But no show tomorrow because I'll be driving to Idaho to speak at the Boise Hemp Fest along with Steve Funn from Seattle Hemp Fest, Lori Duckworth from Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine, Leland Berger from the Portland Normal Legislative Committee, and the Queen of Cannabis promotion. Cheryl Schumann from the Beverly Hills Cannabis Club will be there as well. We're all going to see if we can actually survive in Idaho for 24 hours and not go to prison or jail.
I'm going to meet you here when you get back, and we're going to get really high.
All right, let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. And if not, you might see a new GoFundMe page up.
Bail money at the ready.
We'll see. We'll come back right after this. We're going to talk about pot on TV and the crop of new series that are sprouting on the airwaves right after this.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs. We've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs. We've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
Okay, maybe you're high, too. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they aim you to say that.
Hey, this is great, man.
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. And Blue Blasten Gergen, Pfaffen der Blasten Schnurb Norben. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 37 and a half after the hour, hanging out here in Delta 9 Studios with Matt Lee from the Hot Box Podcast. How you doing, Matt?
Good, man. What's up?
I'm just chilling like a villain.
Living the dream.
What is that we are smoking on?
That is some fine Jack Herrera out of Portland, Oregon, right here.
Right on, right on.
It's one of those things that you smell it and you're like, I have to have that.
Gotta have
it's
some
the
Jack.
best smelling Jack I've ever smelled.
I gotta fix this camera. It's driving me nuts.
Oh, fix it.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, I've reviewed a lot of cannabis in the Washington rec market ever since I first moved there a couple years ago. And checking out what Oregon has to offer, I'd have to say at the beginning, Washington had good stuff, and it's just kind of gradually gotten not so good. And Oregon, like, it's just consistent, at least for flower. Their extracts, not so much, but I understand how expensive that can be for proper testing and such.
Yeah, that's one of the big controversies here in Oregon was there was no testing.
Right.
And then there was testing, but no standardization. Right. So like it was one of those deals where labs are like, well, if we want to keep having business, we better give them good numbers.
And because people don't know better than to just purchase by that one number, that completely screws your whole market product base up.
And then so then there became these testing regulations that everybody freaked out about because they're so strict and you had to turn in so much so often that it was becoming a big financial problem. And now the legislature's looking back at reducing those regulations again. So now the pushback on that is, wait, we're going to let more pesticides in our weed? That's like what a mess this is.
That's not even what they're saying, I don't think. I mean, you're going to allow some, you allow it in tobacco. That's a pretty good model as far as what pesticides can actually be vaporized rather than what's eaten and sprayed on our fruits and vegetables. But, I mean, it causes that market to go away so that the people that don't know any better, let's say, they have an awful selection. And the stuff, I mean, we were checking it out and like calling out these companies that this is deplorable oil, poop soup, if you will,
poop
sir.
Soup?
It is terrible. And like you're selling this as your top shelf. And then it's either that or some distillate, which distillate's generally good, but not for $80 a gram. That's robbery, especially if you know how it's made. Like, come on, you guys.
Right.
Let's be real.
And it's what frustrates me a little bit is that, for years and years, I've been getting my my oil from 2 or 3 guys that I know that make their own oil.
Yep.
Right? Nobody's testing it. Nobody's certifying it. But I know it's good. I know these guys. I know how I've seen them do their process. I know it's pure. I'm not afraid of putting it in my body.
Yep.
So at that level, I wish there was we could have, because in all the states that are legalizing weed, they say you can freely trade. I can grow some weed and I can trade it with you. Or not trade even, it's to give it.
Yeah.
You can freely give it. No,
and that's all well and good, but what ends up happening, what I've seen at least in the Washington market, I can't speak for other markets, is that what ends up getting traded is the shit that they can't do anything else with.
Sure.
And generally that means there's pesticides in it.
Sure.
And what do people do with that? They end up extracting it, which carries pesticides over, and then they end up making it into distillate, because that's the great trash maker of, take your poop and turn it into something that we all enjoy.
Yeah.
And then the pesticides are in there, and it leads to a market that's full of really good oil that's pesticide tainted. And does that hurt us? Who knows? We don't know yet.
And I just want to get to a point where, when I know a guy who's a grower, he can come and bring me buds and I can take them. And he didn't get them tested and I didn't get them tested and nobody's going to test it.
You're an adult? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Then there you go.
This is just a person-to-person transfer. There's no commerce going on. So I want that at the oil level too, because I know guys. But no, at the oil level, you can't be an unlicensed oil maker. It's a felony in this state. It's one of the few felonies that's still left for weed.
Yeah, and I should say, they're making oil. Depending on how you're doing it, some of those machines can be quite spendy for one, and they can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I've seen a lot of really close calls with people that almost knew what they were doing too much, to where they were lulled into that, I can do this with my eyes closed. You don't check a gauge, and then all of a sudden you have a cap in the ceiling. That's
that's no good.
To do that in an unregulated way is fine, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to have the space for it. Don't do this in your garage because, they said I could just do this anywhere. And, that puts people at risk that aren't you. So that's when I kind of have an issue with it. But other than that, make good oil. Let's smoke it, Your body will know if there's something in it. You'll get a headache because there's butane or whatever.
There's a certain level at which I don't want the government protecting me from making bad choices.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm getting to.
That's how we learn.
And when it comes to, I understand if you're going to sell something, especially if you're going to sell it on the medical side, those got to be tested and pure. But I'm a recreational consumer, and if I got a buddy that wants to give me some oil, I can tell whether or not it's good oil just from the basic test of it. Is it crackling? Does it look goopy? I mean, what's the consistency?
And that sorts itself out, right?
Sure.
Because the second someone knows that that's crap, the word spreads. And guess what? He's not going to be able to sell it, which he's either A, going to get out of the game, or B, he'll fix it and it'll be better next time.
And that was, a point that there's an old clip I have of Tommy Chong, where he's saying, we don't need a bunch of regulations for growing weed. We've been growing weed for years. We've been selling weed. We've been trading weed. And that's true. Even at the unregulated, Wild West market style, if you were buying weed from the guy and the guy kept shorting you and getting you bags that were full of sticks and stems and it wasn't what you thought it was, and it seemed a little, maybe there's some mold, maybe there's some pesticide, eventually you found another guy.
Exactly.
Eventually that guy went out of business.
Market sorts itself out, right?
Sorts itself out. And you can't have a market sorting itself out when people could die from the sorting it out.
Sure.
But in most cases with the weed,
that's not what we're dealing.
It's just a matter of quality.
Yeah. if you went to your homie up the street and was like, hey, is any of that synthetic opiate, OxyContin knockoff that you have been making in your kitchen ready yet? I'd like to test some, por favor. Then I could definitely understand. But what we're dealing with here has zero death rate attached to it. You're not going to hurt yourself. You'll taste the butane in it. It'll sizzle and pop if there's water in it. And, then just eat it at that point and hope that it's decarbed enough.
Well, I got another subject to cover in this last segment, and it's from Variety. We're talking the trade publication for the entertainment industry, right? And it's entitled Pot Series Bloom, but Face Tough Audiences. So congratulations for winning our Media Pot Pun Headline of the Day award. We appreciate that. Good job.
It's the hat trick, right? They had 3 in there.
Pot series bloom, but face tough audiences. And so what this is about, it talks about how Netflix has got a series with Kathy Bates coming out. Chuck Lorre, the guy behind the most popular sitcoms, Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men and all that. Chuck Lorre is producing a sitcom called Disjointed. How cute. For Netflix. Kathy Bates is the proprietor of a pot dispensary. Amazon last March debuted a pilot called Budding Prospects. And the show is about 1983 San Francisco, where 3 guys are growing marijuana in Mendocino County. And Viceland, of course, has some nonfiction shows, Weedikit, which I love watching Weedikit. In fact, Krishna's going to be a guest on the show soon.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a PR get from him. And Bong Appetit, the cooking show, which actually got like a James Beard Award nomination. Wow. The Chef Awards, right? So the mainstream is taking us a little more seriously when it comes to having TV shows that are weed focused. Viceland's doing Weed Week next week, like Shark Week, right? Weed Week is happening.
They know their audience, right?
Oh, sure. HBO renewed High Maintenance for a second season, but there have been some failures. MTV canceled its pot comedy Mary Plus Jane. And other shows in development have fallen. NBC had a show in development called Buds. It's no longer being worked on. Humboldt, which supposedly was going to be a series with John Malkovich, not moving now. And the point of this article is kind of like how we're at this transitionary period. And I call it it's like we're moving out of the realm of when we're moving out of the Cheech and Chong era and into an era of where weed isn't by itself enough to carry something.
Right. But it went from psyops, this is stereotypical stoner, now America thinks this is stereotypical stoner because we've shown it to you so many times, to more of an acceptance because they want to gain that demographic's trust again. Because, dude, we haven't had TV since we moved out of our parents' house like 15 years ago, 18, 20 years ago. So they lost a lot of us, especially when internet and sites came online that we could get our shows without commercials in it. You gotta be kidding me.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't offer any way to do it like they do now. Obviously, you can get the channels individually, and those are the channels, oddly enough, we see with this programming.
Exactly.
Did they call you yet? Because they haven't called me.
Not yet. Well, the number's there. 650 Legal MJ. Leave me a message. I'll pick it up as soon as I can.
Come stay at the Airbnb. We'll chat.
There we go. But we got you're right. It's out Netflix. You got Netflix and Amazon and HBO, which all have their own streaming services. The last pot show, the one that you could think of on network TV with commercials, would be like That 70s Show.
Yeah,
but it wasn't really a pot show, though.
I didn't watch it a lot, but I can't feel like they ever actually showed weed. It was always insinuated, right? Yes. So this is what we would be like if we were smoking weed. Pass this next cam. And then weeds, obviously,
right.
That was
again, but pay cable, Showtime.
Yep.
But I do think we're getting beyond this period where, like, I call it the Doug Benson effect. I mean, Doug Benson's a great guy, but sometimes I think his comedy relies a little too much on being the stoned guy.
Yeah,
I don't think being stoned enough is funny enough anymore.
No, you have to rise above that, and there are tons of funny things. There are great pot comics that do more than just stand up there and be like, "Oh my god, I'm so high, you guys."
Right.
I would go to the weed club tonight and do that, and people will enjoy it just because.
Yeah,
but you can't do that all the time.
Yeah, you can't. And at the end of the piece here on Variety, it says the addition of pot to a series isn't enough. And they were speaking to the Amazon's head of series development, Joe Lewis. He said, just having marijuana in a show certainly doesn't guarantee a show will be good.
You learned that the hard way. Sorry, guys.
all the same guidelines still apply. You got to have the right cast, creative team, new storylines, character. Marijuana itself shouldn't be a crutch, end quote.
I mean, it's 27. Can we say that for any show? Like, Can we not rely on one stupid gimmick to make your whole show so that you can have your paycheck so that you can buy your new car? Like,
that would be nice.
Hollywood.
But
Get
I do like,
here.
you know, one of the things that I see in movies and TV that I really appreciate is when there is marijuana in a scene and it's not mentioned. Like, there'll be a scene where someone's smoking a joint, and that has nothing to do with the scene or the plot or the characters or anything.
Everyone's
it's
just like, oh,
background.
that's Bill. He smokes joints all the time. That's his thing. Whatever.
And nobody even brings it up. That shows how far we've come.
More
than
acceptance
these
for
other
sure.
shows. All right, we got to take a break because, you know, that's the way this works on the radio. And when we come back, we got another one of these cases of marijuana edibles and kids getting a hold of them. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we'll wrap up and tell you about my trip to Mordor coming up tomorrow. No live show tomorrow because I'll be off traveling to Mordor. So we'll be back on Monday if I'm not in an Idaho jail cell.
We'll hope for the best.
We'll hope for the best.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer. Or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
The Russ Belville Show. We're as much like Cheech and Chong as ordinary Americans are like the Three Stooges. Hey, Mo! Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
Is this right? Just try not to drool quite so much on the end of it.
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. Yar, thar be pirates here. Har, 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 har. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 52 after the hour, and as we close up shop here at Delta 9 House and Studios, a reminder to check out Facebook.com/Delta 9 House and book your room today. We got openings all summer long, and I've put up some of the festivals and stuff that are going on in the Portland area that you might want to check out, like the Waterfront Blues Festival, the Portland Fleet Week, the Bite of Oregon, the Portland Hemp Stock. You want to get those dates before someone else gets them.
I'll tell you, and I don't usually do this when I write reviews, but something I included in my review of this place that will be up on stuffstonerslack.com probably in a week or two is that this is the only place I can think of that you can go to and watch an awesome show, music, have any kind of food you want, go to a place that has a dab bar, and then come stay at the dopest, like, 420 friendly Airbnb ever.
There we go.
It's a cool place.
That is a perfect ad. I love it. So as we close up shop, I did want to make mention of this last story coming out of Florida. And you know, when it comes out of Florida, it's going to be something. But it's the story of a Palm Bay man and his daughter who got charged for pot brownie sales. They're selling these pot brownies $10 a piece. And the dad is 38, his daughter's 17, charged with delivery of a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school. Controlled substance delivery to a minor, possession of cannabis with intent to sell, and possession of drug paraphernalia. So what happened, though, is one of the kids they sold a brownie to, according to the report, became unconscious at high school and was taken by ambulance to the hospital.
where 3 hours later he felt kind of silly for passing out at school.
Right.
But I understand being young, your endocannabinoid system's not developed, obviously. You should not do that.
Yeah. And folks, like, I'm a veteran of this stuff, and I top 240 pounds, and I smoke and dab every day, multiple times a day. I don't fuck with the brownies.
You either.
No.
Me neither.
I do not fuck with the brownies.
Dude,
no way.
My system loves THC. You put some 11-hydroxy-THC in there, and I am like that kid. I'm falling asleep. You guys are like, Matt, are you okay? Should we call the hospital?
Yeah.
Like, no, he's just sleeping because he ate too many damn edibles.
Quick science lesson for those of you listening. When you inhale, so first of all, your bud doesn't have THC in it. It's got THCA.
It has some, depending on how old it is.
Yeah.
But
it's got THCA, right, which is non-psychoactive. But once you flame that sucker, it decarboxylates. It becomes THC. Yep. You inhale that, and then the Delta-9 THC goes to your brain. You think little happy thoughts and get the munchies. The THC, though, that you get in an edible, it's been decarboxylated. Someone put it in an oven for, 200 degrees, 150, something like that?
It depends on your atmosphere, but yeah.
Yeah, up in Denver, it'd be higher.
Well, no, I mean, if you're in a vacuum oven. But yeah, also, if you're up in Denver, that also, good point.
So, so they decarboxylate it, so it's already THC, right? But then they bake it, and then you eat it, and your stomach enzymes, it changes it into a different thing than what your lungs do.
It metabolizes it into 11-hydroxy-THC, which is similar, but if you know anything about molecules and such, any difference in that is going to cause a whole set of different properties, as we know, by the body effect. And if you've ever wondered why eating edibles is way more potent or that heavy body effect, that's why.
That's why. 11-hydroxy,
little science.
As I was told by Paul Armentano of Normal, is 9 times more psychoactive. But I think it's psychoactive in a different way.
It depends also on the system that it's psychoactivating with.
There we go. Psychoactivating.
Thank you.
There we go.
There's
I like
the word.
That. We just coined a new word. Psychoactivating. It's now in.
But and that's really interesting that you bring that up, because there are a lot of people nowadays that are actually juicing raw cannabis to eat the THCA. So they're not getting that psychoactive effect. And we're not, well, I shouldn't say we, but scientists are not exactly sure what that metabolizes into, because it is different. So it's an interesting course of study if you're in school.
It's also interesting is in Virginia, Governor McAuliffe this year signed a bill that expanded their CBD oil law. And it says that their CBD oil can have 15% or greater CBD or 15% or greater THCA and must be less than 5% THC. Now, as they explained it to the legislators, CBD and THCA are non-psychoactive. And that's absolutely true, isn't it?
That's true. I pity the lab that had to make that SOP of getting those exact ratios. I mean, it's doable, obviously, but
I want to make clear that listeners in Virginia, don't buy your high THCA oil and place it in a container in some place that's 200 degrees where that might decarboxylate and become THC, because that would be illegal.
That's so weird. A chemical process, and now you're a criminal, you guys. Think about that.
And there's precedent for this, because back in Prohibition days, they used to sell wine cake. They used to sell these bricks that were compressed, dried grape. And what they would sell them to people in Prohibition. And the instructions on it would say, do not soak this in a barrel of 5 gallons of water and place with a cup of sugar in a dry, warm area for 2 weeks, because it will ferment and become an illegal alcoholic beverage.
That's so awesome.
Wink.
Money, thank you.
So this whole thing about like no tobacco use only that we were talking about earlier, it's been going on for a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Time. Hey folks, that's all the time we got. Time flies when you legalize. We got to wrap things up because there's still a whole lot of dabs over there.
So many dabs to do.
Gotta take a break from the show. We'll be back on Monday because I'll be in Idaho at the Mount Doom Hemp Fest.
We'll be rooting for you, man. And hey, thanks for having me. This place is really cool.
All right. For everyone here at Delta 9 Studios, Matt and myself and everyone else, thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.
You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
As someone who is a social worker, I think we really must look at the way we're handling marijuana in this country.
You can find Radical Russ online everywhere.